Hey there, my name is Julie. I'm a housewife in my 40s. Recently, I remarried. My husband's name is Mark. He's 2 years older than me. He was a tenant in the apartment I owned. As I cleaned the apartments, he would say thank you. Gradually, we started making small talk, and it developed into a relationship. I thought you were just a cleaner. I'm already in my 40s. I wasn't stylish just tying back my black hair, so it wasn't surprising I was thought of that way. I was really surprised when I found out you were the landlord. Mark worked while also doing investments as a hobby, and before he knew it, he had missed his chance to get married. I also had a fondness for investments, and we hit it off. It naturally led to marriage. Mark always praised everything about my investments, saying amazing. Not only that, but when I made a simple meal, he would be thrilled, saying delicious. And if I massaged his shoulders, he would look blissfully happy, as if melting away. He's older, but somehow childlike, a pure man. I wasn't of an age to wear a bridal dress a second time, so I felt bad for Mark, who was marrying for the first time. But we didn't have a wedding. Instead, our new home was in a high-rise condo, as Mark had wished. Wow, what a view! Although it was just on the 5th floor of the high-rise, Mark was dazzled by the view of the city. It's so luxurious for just the two of us. So much bigger than my old apartment. He was excited. I had no idea his honest nature would take a complete 180 degrees turn. It started when we invited Mark's colleague to our home. Wow, amazing! Sam stood in the middle of the room, agape. This is your place. It's like a hotel. I've never stayed in such an amazing hotel. Surprise. It's really amazing, right? Mark said, proud as he urged Sam to sit cautiously on the leather sofa. Oh, this is for you, Sam said, handing Mark a cake. Oh, Mark said with a confused smile, thanks. This is the $30 cake they sell near the supermarket, right? There was no need for Mark to say it in such a sarcastic way. Sam shrank back, looking uncomfortable. Thank you for the cake. I really love it. Trying to change the mood, I cheerfully offered Sam a cup of coffee. No worries, Sam took a sip of the coffee, looking relieved. Until now, Mark never joined for drinks, and his lunch was always half-priced meals. He wouldn't even buy a bottle of water. He was really tight with money. So when he suddenly got married and moved into a high-rise condo, I couldn't believe it. Man, you're amazing. Well, yeah, Mark said, lifting his chin and puffing out his chest. Who are those guys who said I'd never get married, huh? No one's going to make fun of me at work anymore, right? My bad, man, your wife's a lucky woman. Mark and Sam were joking around. I was a bit concerned about Mark's attitude, but maybe that's just how guys talk. Sam's voice lowered as he added, but even though the house is luxurious, your wife is pretty plain. Well, she lost you there. I'm not superficial like you. It's normal for a guy in his 40s to marry a woman in her 40s, right? Marrying a cute 20-something is just something from a drama. I couldn't believe my ears. They both laughed as if they meant no harm. Yeah, this high-rise has a gym and even a fancy bar, not like the cheap pubs you guys go to. It's a really stylish place. Want me to treat you to a drink? And with that, Mark and Sam went off to the bar. Mark was showing off in front of his colleague, just for today, just for now. But from that day on, Mark started acting more arrogantly. Oh, you went to that cheap supermarket again. We're high class now. It's embarrassing, so stop it, okay? Mark frowned disapprovingly, checking my purchases and receipts. What bothered me most was Mark's evening drink. He'd always sat by the window, looking down. Oh, the cars look like toys, and the people are so tiny. They don't know they're being looked down upon as they work down there. Mark had completely changed. It felt like a distant memory when we used to buy discounted vegetables at a cheap supermarket and cook together. I was starting to feel uneasy about Mark. Then one day I felt something unfamiliar when I came home. I swallowed hard. Could it be that Mark brought another woman home? I listened carefully and heard laughter from a man and a woman in the living room. My palms were sweaty, even though it wasn't hot. I tiptoed down the hallway, creeping like a burglar, peeking into the living room. The curly-haired woman noticed me and raised her hand. "Oh, Julie, welcome back." "Emily." My tension immediately dissipated. It was Mark having drinks with my sister, Emily. But then why? I hadn't told Mom about the new place, though I did inform her of the marriage. Emily probably heard about the marriage from Mom, but I never expected her to just show up. "You could have told me you were married now. I am your big sis after all. Let me celebrate your marriage at least." Emily, already drunk, leaned on Mark's shoulder. Apparently, Mark had told my mom about our new place during the wedding greetings. I really didn't want to. I had even told Mark beforehand that my relationship with my family wasn't great. But of course, if your spouse's mother asks where you're living, you'd naturally answer. However, my mom's question wasn't just small talk. She probably just wanted something to look down on me for. They must have laughed behind my back, thinking the story of us living in a high-rise was a big lie. "Wow, I'm surprised. I can't believe you actually live in a high-rise. It's so luxurious and spacious. Totally different from our old family home." "Well, yeah, this is high-rise quality. Lucky you, Julie. I'm so jealous." All the while, Emily was touching Mark's arm and thigh excessively. Mark's face lit up with every touch. Julie really moved up in the world from being a fast food wife, Mark. Looking smug, Mark suddenly tilted his head. "Oh, Mark, didn't you know? Julie's ex-husband used to work at a fast food place. She used to go there a lot. It's kind of funny, meeting like that when you're not in high school, right?" "A fast food place, huh? I can't believe you married a guy with such a high schooler job. Your ex-husband was like a freeloader, wasn't he?" "Totally, Mom and I were so worried. We were against the marriage, but you were all, 'I love him. I'm going to marry him like some tragic heroine. You just went off and married without telling anyone." Emily and Mark laughed heartily as they drank their beer. Hearing them mock my ex-husband Joshua made my head feel like it was being squeezed. I wanted to stop the conversation right away, but I couldn't move. Then, after about 5 or 6 years of marriage, your husband suddenly passed away, straight to heaven. Poor Julie, really, you didn't listen to our advice, married some weird guy, and look what happened. At that moment, I raised my right hand high. Emily screamed, snapping me back to reality. My hand was trembling above Emily's head. "Hey, you were about to hit me, weren't you?" Emily's eyes widened in shock. Then she blinked slowly. Suddenly, she seemed weak and leaned heavily on Mark's shoulder. It was scary, the whiny tone in her voice, setting shivers down my spine. "Julie, what were you about to do to your own family?" Mark yelled at me, and I clenched my trembling hand. "I'm sorry, but Emily was." "Shut up. Are you trying to make excuses after making your sister cry? I thought you were a kind woman. I'm disappointed." Emily's sobbing mouth revealed her white teeth. Her overly red lips, certainly laughing, were visible. Mark gently stroked her stiff, curly hair, oblivious to her laughter, enveloping her in kindness. But they were speaking ill of Joshua. "What? Do you still have feelings for your ex-husband?" Mark wouldn't listen to me. That was the moment a complete rift formed between us. It's always been like this. My family looks down on me and makes me a laughingstock. That's why I wanted to keep my distance. Ever since we were young, everyone favored Emily for her good looks, including Mom and our late father. In contrast, Mom often told me, "Don't worry, you can get cosmetic surgery when you're older," while Emily enjoyed a fashionable student life with boyfriends. I devoted myself to studying. I did it because Mom praised me when I scored 100 on tests. But after a while, 100 became the expected score, and I get scolded for missing even 1 point. Julie's studying hard. That's great. I'm so proud of my smart sister. She's studying for her future cosmetic surgery costs, you know. I even brag about it to my friends. Emily, not academically inclined but glamorous, often ridiculed me. Do I still have to be laughed at by my family even as an adult? Not even allowed to defend my late husband Joshua. Worse, Mark joined in the laughter and blamed me. It was unbearable. A week has passed since then, and our relationship remains strained. Mark, who loved living in the high-rise, has been coming home late. He must not want to see me. Mark avoids our bedroom and listlessly retreats to another room in this spacious house. We hardly feel each other's presence. It feels like the emotional distance is growing. I can't let this continue. With that resolve, the next day I bravely approached Mark when he returned from work. "Mark, it's cold today. Would you like to have a stew together?" Mark, about to head to his room, glanced briefly at the dining table. Steam rose from the earthenware pot, filling the air with a gentle broth aroma. His response was cold. "I don't want to eat something so common. If you want to cheer me up, you should serve caviar or something." Mark, who'd never even eaten those things, shrugged in disgust. Then he looked me up and down, letting out a big sigh. "Huh. Not you. My mistake." With that, Mark disappeared into his room. Mistake. The meaning of those words would soon become painfully clear. Welcome home. One day, when I got home, Emily greeted me at the entrance. She was unusually cheerful, smiling broadly. Behind her, Mark was grinning, scratching his head. Emily and Mark looked happy, embarrassed as if they had something to say but couldn't quite start. "What's going on? Were you guys drinking and badmouthing me and Joshua again?" "No, that's just your paranoia. As I tried to enter my room, Emily said, 'Oh, wait, sorry, but could you not enter this house anymore?'" What? Mistake. The meaning of those words would soon become painfully clear. Welcome home. One day, when I got home, Emily greeted me at the entrance. She was unusually cheerful, smiling broadly. Behind her, Mark was grinning, scratching his head. Emily and Mark looked happy, embarrassed as if they had something to say but couldn't quite start. "What's going on? Were you guys drinking and badmouthing me and Joshua again?" "No, that's just your paranoia. As I tried to enter my room, Emily said, 'Oh, wait, sorry, but could you not enter this house anymore?'" What? Well, you know right, Mark. "Yeah, Emily, you say it." Emily and Mark were like a shy new couple. "Well, you see, we've fallen in love with each other." Huh. In response to Emily's foot-stomping excitement, I could only offer a deflated reply. "Emily is not a high school girl. No way." "Oh, too bad. Then let's just buy or rent one." "Emily, I'm counting on you." Their earlier brightness vanished, replaced by puzzled expressions. "Hey, I've been a bit confused since earlier, but what do you mean by my house is owned by Julie? Is this place really Julie's home?" Emily asked with a strange smile. "Yeah, sort of. Julie, of all people, is so cheeky. You studied hard to get cosmetic surgery, but in the end, you bought a high-rise instead of spending money on surgery." "No, that's not it." "I get it. It's a loan, right? With a loan you can buy anything expensive, so that's the trick. Don't scare me like that." Emily convinced herself and nodded with crossed arms. "But you can't beat Mark, right? He owns a few apartments on the second and third floors of this high-rise, and he has lots of other lands and apartments." Julie, you're out of his league. Mark looked away guiltily, closing his mouth. But those are mine too. After all, I own this entire high-rise. Huh? But Mark said they were his. Emily's pleading gaze turned to Mark. Emily, I expected a confident Mark, but the real Mark's face was pale and contorted. Mark, Julie is lying, right? Well, that it's like ours as a married couple. Mark mumbled, and I clarified for him. It seems Mark bragged to Emily about properties in my name as if they were his own. Pathetic man. No, that's a lie. The one who lied is Mark. Emily collapsed on the spot, shocked. Julie, of all people, this is a lie. An uneasy Mark with a strange smile apologized. Sorry. His straightforward apology didn't seem to reach the dazed Emily. Unable to stand the heavy atmosphere, Mark started to laugh nervously. Sorry, I don't own anything, but my feelings for Emily are real. I'll always support Emily by her side. Mark, Emily's cheeks turned slightly red. Love over money. No way, that can't be true. So, Emily, how much do you own? Own what? Like land or condo. Huh. I don't own anything like that. Emily and Mark looked confused, raising and lowering their eyebrows with pitiful faces. Emily, you were more loved by your parents than me, so you should have been favored, right? What happened to the apartments you inherited from your father? Inheritance? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you lost all the apartments you received. Emily screamed and they both fell silent. They made funny faces at each other, opening their eyes wide, closing their lips, and baring their teeth as if in a staring contest. I lost this staring contest. Mark, you misunderstood. I do own many places and lands, but it's indeed from inheritance, not from studying hard. You can't buy 1 or 2 high-rises just by studying. But the inheritance wasn't from my father. Emily looked baffled for a moment, but then burst into laughter. Joshua, the fast food guy? Yeah, but not a part-timer. I had explained this to my family when I decided to marry Joshua. It's true we met at a fast food place, but Joshua was not an employee there. He was the landowner of the fast food place. It's baffling how they twisted it to make him out as an employee. No matter how much I corrected them, they laughed and said, yeah, still working part-time at your age. Joshua came from a family of wealthy landowners for generations. I explained, causing Emily's eyes to nearly pop out. He was rich enough to live leisurely without working at a fast food place. In reality, Joshua was serious about his work, and I didn't quit my job just because I married him. We didn't live leisurely, and that's why the fortune was preserved. Why do people who make assumptions have the wildest imagination? I didn't know that. I wasn't told. I hadn't bragged about being rich, but I had repeatedly insisted that Joshua wasn't a part-timer. It was Emily's ears and brain that shut out the truth. Julie, of all people. Rich Julie owning a high-rise? Unacceptable. Some people need straightforward talk, no sugarcoating. Sorry, but I happen to own real estate worth 380 billion yen. Me, lower than Emily, living comfortably above Emily. Emily, for some reason, covered her head with both hands and slumped to the floor. No words came out, but tears of frustration overflowed. I walked to the window and looked outside. Want to see the view, Mark? It's quite different from the 5th floor. A view you'll never see again in your life, so take a good look. Mark staggered over to me and unbelievably put his arm around my shoulder. Sorry, my bad. I was swayed by Emily because she seemed to have a lot of money. Think about it. Would I really like someone flashy like Emily? Mark turned his gaze to the vast view outside the large window. People look like toys. No, they're just trash. I gently placed my hand over Mark's on my shoulder. Then Mark grasped my hand and smiled tenderly. "Julie, I love you." "Mark, I don't love you." "Huh." I roughly shook off Mark's hand. A man who cheats on his newlywed wife for an affair is indeed trash. By the way, the divorce papers you unilaterally handed me that day have already been submitted. Enjoyed the top floor view? Trash should return to its place. Time to go back down. With that, Mark, making his most handsome face, froze solid. Later. Emily and Mark continued to live on the 5th floor of the high-rise. Considering how much Mark ridiculed Emily, they were obviously not living happily ever after. They just refused to give up their place. One day, they were clearly lying in wait for me at the entrance. Spotting me, they clumsily rushed over. "Julie, finally found you. Hey, what's this about?" I didn't need to see the paper they showed to know what it was about. "It's the rent bill. It's written in English, so you can read it, right?" "Why? You're trying to take money from us?" "Of course. Why would you think you can live here for free?" Calmly answering, Emily approached. "That's cold. We're family, right? You can kick out this trash man, but I, as a family, have the right to live here for free." "No. Forgot what you did? Stealing your sister's husband, breaking up a family, and you talk about family? I have no family." Emily weakly muttered, "Julie, I was jealous of happy Julie. Really, I'm in big trouble." Emily burst into tears, her voice breaking as she recounted her hardships. "My ex was generous, even though he was just a part-timer. When I asked, he was smart with credit cards, you know. With revolving credit, you can spend $2,000 one month and pay only $200 the next. It's a good deal, right?" But then Emily sniffled in frustration. Before I knew it, I was paying for my ex's shopping too, and when I reached my credit limit, he dumped me. Don't you think that's sad? I'm broke, and now you want me to keep living in this high-rise? And she was planning to introduce this ex to me? Yes, he dumped me, but it's okay. You still have Mark, right? Maybe your ex and Mark are similar, both equally worthless. I heard Mark was into investing, but he only ever asked about my affairs and never shared details. Well, it makes sense. He couldn't say he was blowing most of his salary on betting on horses. Just because you have money doesn't mean you dress flashy. Joshua and I never wasted money and were very modest. I thought Mark was the same before we got married. He didn't talk much about himself, seemed humble and kind. I was mistaken. When things were strange between Mark and me, I almost fainted when I found a pocket full of betting tickets. Enjoy your life with the Mark you stole from me. Oh, and by the way, the rent is due tomorrow. Don't forget to pay it. That's impossible. If you can't pay, you'll have to leave. Despite my logical response, Emily wailed, but we're family, and Mark, professing his love for me, clung to my feet. This high-rise felt more like a daycare than a luxury apartment. It wasn't my job to discipline these brats. Eventually, Emily and Mark couldn't keep living in the high-rise and had to leave. I've moved out too, so I don't have to worry about being ambushed by them anymore. The top floor of the high-rise was lovely, but it just didn't feel like me. What a nice view today. I leaned over the balcony on the 2nd floor. Before me, the sea stretched out as far as the eye could see. My previous urban life felt like being swallowed by a sea of dark buildings. Now, living away from the city, I've changed both my home and my job, starting a new life. The neighbors share their vegetables and seafood with me. There's a senior colleague at work I get along with. Life doesn't always need parents, siblings, or a spouse. It's enough to spend time with people you like. Even without a family, I am perfectly happy on my own. Joshua loved the sea too, I remember. I am a free-spirited singleton, yet in my heart there's always Joshua